One of the most anticipated fights of the 1,000-Year Blood War just took place, and I can't be any happier with how the animation studio handled it. When I was first reading the 1,000-Year Blood War, I remember my utter shock at the realization that our lovely maternal figure of the captains within Unohana was in fact not Retsu Unohana, but Yachiro Unohana, the very first Kenpachi. This episode was brilliant with its pacing, and my god, the music aided so much to deliver such phenomenal storytelling as the episode continues to climb in anticipation and finally reaches its peak within the final battle. I'm envious of anime-onlys who watched this because I can only imagine the amount of jaw drops that took place with this simultaneously chilling and incredibly hype realization. This is peak fiction, this is Bleach. With the episode's opening, we see Shunzui reading a message stating that he's appointed as head captain, and there was so much foreshadowing for this moment, especially after Yamamoto's death. Time and time again, Shunzui's relationship and closeness with Yamamoto, it was reinforced through both dialogue and flashbacks to really drive home the notion that Shunzui has watched and both learned from Yamamoto since quite literally childhood. With Yamamoto passing, Shunzui acted as the bastion of stability and confidence for the fellow captains in a time of utmost peril. Despite Shunzui being thrust into this role by order of the Central 46, this is a role he's clearly spent his life preparing for, whether he knows it or not. I'm curious for the thoughts of any anime-onlys who are watching this regarding who you thought would end up becoming head captain. Let me know in the comment section below because I'm extremely curious. When I was reading initially, I thought it'd either be Shunzui or Ukitake, but given Ukitake's health, Shunzui was my likely conclusion. We're briefly taken away from this news by catching up with Renji and Ichigo's recovery in the hot spring, and it looks like Ichigo has been in the gym because goddamn, he's looking shredded. Despite the hot spring being a lighthearted brief few moments, I found it incredible to see both of the bodies of Tanjiro's helpers as their bodies were extremely damaged even while wearing protective robing. The hot springs aren't simply just a recovery method anyone can use. Instead, it's a recovery method meant for the strongest to heal from, and it's clear there's immense power-ups coming for both Ichigo and surprisingly Renji. The dialogue of Tanjiro stating that when he punched Ichigo, Ichigo instinctively struck his fist and fractured it. This speed feat was something I personally didn't remember reading within the manga, and I don't know how I didn't remember it, because the hype it adds to Ichigo in terms of power scaling is pretty incredible. Not only are his reactions superb, but his speed feats match that of lightning-fast Tanjiro, who was able to blitz and grab Soifon without her even being able to react. With Ichigo and Renji brought to Hikafune City, I was immediately hungry from all the delicious-looking food, and our heroes get a brief break by gorging themselves and forgetting about their current circumstances, although it's short-lived, because Ichigo, much like myself, is an overthinker. His realization that while everyone else is training and getting stronger, they're instead frolicking around in a hot spring and eating. This brief change in Ichigo is so reflective of his character's theme of being someone constantly concerned with others and an individual often within his own head. The message delivered by both Renji and Hikafune is paramount though, and it's so applicable to the real world as well, that it's okay to relax and recover to prepare for what's to come. Ichigo doesn't always need to be fighting and training. Recovery both of the mind and body is important because the war isn't over. They need to be at full strength, and this is the only way to make sure of that. There's a fascinating information dump regarding Squad Zero that all of Squad Zero represents the history of Soul Society. With Hikafune, she created the temporary soul and the technology to place it into the body, and within the next member of Squad Zero that Ichigo and Renji are sent off to, Namaya is the founder of the Zanpakuto. I'm so geeked for that episode because personally the history he embodies is my favorite of Soul Society because I'm such a sucker for swords, and the concept of a Zanpakuto and how it's formed is incredible. All this training was super cool, but I think we all know what we've been waiting to discuss. Shunzui meets with Central 46 to state his first task as head captain is to train Kenpachi. The dynamic of Central 46 has always been met by me with general distaste because they represent a ruling class that seem to seek control. In the case of Kenpachi, one of the members states that if he became too powerful, no one would be able to control him, and subsequently there would be no way to stop him rampaging. There's inherent fear within them of Kenpachi's latent abilities and combat prowess, but due to the circumstances at hand, they have to relinquish control. They have no other option than to allow Kenpachi to awaken for the sake of the preservation of Soul Society. The one to awaken Kenpachi surprisingly is none other than the first Kenpachi within Unohana, and my god, there isn't a better fitting person to do so. Throughout the story, there's been glimpses of Unohana being someone with a dark demeanor, and it's always very short bouts of the calm yet terrifying nature she seems to possess. I always wonder how cognizant Aizen was of Unohana's true nature and combat prowess, because when they met within Soul Society, he doesn't fight her. And in retrospect, I imagine that was intentional because he knows just how much of a monster she was and is. With Kenpachi arriving to Muken, I had goosebumps at the dialogue that took place with Kenpachi reminding Unohana that she at one point was the most ruthless and notorious criminal. The dichotomy of Unohana's history as a commander and from who we've known her as within the story is so starkly different. An individual who heals others and speaks in a manner that is so calming and motherly, in reality, she possesses a part of herself that is quite literally an unstoppable killing force. This contrast is perfect and is exemplified with her changing of hairstyles from when she was a leader of the 4th Division to now fighting to the death as a Kenpachi. Her typical hairstyle is much more tame and unassuming, and it covers the scar given to her long ago by none other than our Zaraki. With her hair down, she quite literally reverts back to the unrivaled swordsman she was and is, sporting her name of Yachiro, which translates directly to 8,000 styles. I can't emphasize enough how insane this is. Unohana, a member of the strongest Gotei 13, wasn't just a standard captain, she was the Kenpachi, the strongest captain outside of Yamamoto. When Yuha spoke that the original Gotei 13 died 1,000 years ago along with him, he was wrong. He wasn't able to realize that the sleeping monster residing within the Gotei 13, that she still existed deep under the surface. The harsh reality of this immense fight is that there can only be one person that walks out of Mukin, there can only be one Kenpachi. This is such a badass concept, but I wish more than anything both of them could walk out of this battle and fight together within the next invasion, but death makes stories far more poignant and far more real. I love throughout the fight seeing the lifeless and cold eyes of Unohana, and her tone being so different from how she normally speaks. She's actually terrifying. It's as if she's a different person who has no thoughts or care outside of the pure love of battle. I'm a sucker for strong female characters within anime, and Unohana is definitely an S tier 1. What hit my emotional notes the most this episode was the music coupled with seeing each of the lieutenants realizing what is transpiring. With Isane reading a note from Unohana while tears stream down her face, and Yachiro seeing Kenny's eye patch, both are so reflective of how their captains communicate. Particularly within Kenpachi, he isn't a man of much words, but that eye patch says far more than words ever could. The battle was extremely one-sided, with Unohana using guile and shameless attacks to harm Kenpachi, and it's a testament to her willingness to push Kenpachi to his limits in battle. Fighting isn't meant to be fair or honorable, you win or you lose, you kill or you die. We get a brief flashback of Kenpachi finding meaning in his existence within this battle with Unohana, and despite being just a child, he was able to go toe-to-toe with the Unohana at her arguable peak, and that's Kenpachi as a little kid. It's incredible to think that throughout the entire story of Bleach, Kenpachi has always known exactly who Unohana is, and he's admired her his entire life. So much that he named Yachiro after Unohana's true name. I love the setup that Kubo does hundreds of chapters prior that come full circle just like this. There's so much beauty in Kenpachi feeling lost in the dark, swinging aimlessly his entire life, only to find purpose within someone being able to fight against him. He's waited and fought all this time in hopes of being able to beat Unohana, and upon the realization that he might not, we see Kenpachi shed tears for the first time. Because this isn't just a fight for him, this is the culmination of his dream, his ambition, his life's work, and it adds so much depth to his character. He isn't just a brute fighting to fight, this is truly what he lives for. This is his passion. In the end of the episode, Kenpachi briefly blacks out upon seeming to die, only to be thrust back into battle once more. And I've always interpreted this as Unohana continually reviving Kenpachi from the brink of death, only to fight once more. In fact, Unohana states that every time he gets close to death, he grows stronger, kind of similar to a Zenkai boost, and him blacking out only to come back reinforces this notion that he's brought just inches from death to come back stronger and stronger. With Unohana's words that he won't die, it hints at what's to come, and I can't wait for the next episode to see the conclusion. Unohana versus Kenpachi is unquestionably one of the most anticipated fights of the entire final saga, and it's clear to see why. There were mixed opinions before the 1,000-Year Blood Wars anime adaptation on the arc as a whole, but I saw little to no complaints ever regarding this fight in particular. This fight is so easy to love, and with the anime adapting it so brilliantly, it gives me hope that with its conclusion, this fight will indeed surpass the manga. The storyboarding, the music, everything just accentuates why I love this story. This arc truly exemplifies what it takes to win a war, and in this case, it takes awakening a monster. If you enjoy my content, please do consider dropping a subscription. We cover Bleach every week, so if you're a fan of Bleach, this is the right place for you. Most importantly, let me know in the comment section below your favorite moment of this episode. My favorite moment of this episode was seeing Unohana with her hair down and her dead eyes for the first time finally being animated. This has been hiXtrah, and as always, be greedier, and I will catch you all next time.